A tribe of piglins were brought to the end dimension of a new universe, filled with new biomes and creatures. Living off of mainly chorus fruit, they slowly changed into ender piglins over time. Now their queen, the Ender Witch, seeks to return to the piglins' old dimension. But to open the portal, someone will have to collect the 6 ender stones scattered across this end dimension, and face all types of dangers. This is 100 days as an ender piglin in hardcore Minecraft. On day 1, I was in a room below the arena when a piglin tossed me a sword and pushed me up the steps. As I was thrust into the arena, I dizzily spun around, looking at all the piglins attending the fight, and the queen sitting upon her throne. She gave a nod, and I turned around to see another piglin running at me. He landed a hit, but I quickly teleported away, giving me the chance to strike. With one good bop on the head, I knocked him out. But that meant I would have to continue on to the next round and fight stronger piglin. I didn't even know what this tournament was all for yet. After the fight, the queen's general found me as I was heading down from the arena. He tossed me some food and told me to follow him. We traveled through our village to the other end of the island, where the old broken down bastion built by our ancestors stood. I was finally going to find out why all the piglins were being forced to fight one another.
Good fighting out there.
Thanks. Now will you tell me what we're competing over?
Our queen searches for a champion to venture out and collect the stones she needs.
The ones that open the portal?
Yes. You see, this sanctuary is all that's left of the world our ancestors knew. Wouldn't you like to see it with your own eyes?
Yes, but why does she want to go there if she's from here? And why would she send out a piglin on this quest when she barely lets us leave the island?
You bring up good questions. That I don't have the answer to. She has always taken good care of us, so this will be the way to return the favor. And we'll be able to see the universe we came from.
You're right. I'm not the best fighter, but I'll try my best to win. It would be a huge honor to be the one to return our people to where we came from.
I wish you luck, little brother. It took me a lot to get you into this tournament. Please, don't embarrass me.
I'll try not to. I walked back through the village to my house, looked up at the arena, and went inside to try to sleep. I was awoken on day 2 by a piglin guard punching me awake. He said to suit up and meet him in the arena. So I went to collect some different foods from the farms, and I grabbed some blossom berries and some delicious chorus fruit. 2 snacks that I didn't have to cook. Then I headed over to the blacksmith and asked if he had any extra armor I could use. He threw me some old gold armor he had laying around along with a sword. It was actually kind of fun to watch the other piglins duel. One guy tried to use water to defeat an opponent, a deadly weapon against anything ender. Now it was my turn to fight, but as I walked toward my opponent, the Ender Witch launched a potion into the air. It flew toward the center of the arena, and as it smashed into the ground, it announced today's sponsor, World of Tanks Blitz, a free mobile MMO shooter game where you can drive a tank into battle against other players. Join this community of over 140 million players worldwide by simply clicking the link in my description. It's available on iOS, Android, Nintendo Switch, macOS, Steam, and Windows 10. With so many players, over 400 vehicles, more than 31 maps, and 8+ game modes, every battle will be unique. World of Tanks Blitz is celebrating their game's 8th birthday with a brand new 9.0 update. This update introduces visual improvements to keep FPS more stable for Android and iOS, while also making the maps look and feel more realistic and detailed. They are also overhauling their aiming system based on community feedback to be more responsive, precise, and smooth. It's a perfect update to test out their new Japanese heavies. You can also have some fun after battles by sharing your reactions with brand new emoticons and more on the way. Mark your teammates on how they did and now show off how you did by displaying your maximum damage dealt during a battle in your profile. Get started and get ready for some events where you can deal tons of damage and unlock cool rewards. Easily download World of Tanks Blitz for free using the link in my description. And as the potion particles dissipated, the tournament resumed. The first guy wasn't too much of a challenge. We went back and forth until he finally yielded. The next guy ran out of arrows before he could win, and the third guy was a piglin brute. He was overly confident though and didn't wear any armor. He chased me around the arena until he grew tired. Then I knocked the axe out of his hand and he surrendered. Day 3, the Ender Witch announced a break in the competition to give competitors a chance to rest up and train if they wanted. I went to collect some more food as well as some wood for fuel, and while I was collecting wood, I uncovered a trapped dragonfly who was so happy to finally be free after getting stuck under there. It followed me home where I cooked up some coarse mushrooms and shared some with my newfound friend. Once I had enough food, we traveled over to the Queen's Observatory to train in private. I set up some dummies to practice on, teleporting about until I heard a laugh. I looked up to find the general approaching me.
You're taking this very seriously, aren't you?
Just practicing, really.
You've been doing great so far, but I think you should drop out.
What? Why? You're the one that got me involved in this in the first place.
I now know who the final contestants are, and I don't want you to get hurt.
Well, I've been doing good so far, and I can always yield before I get hurt.
You were always the stubborn one. Fine, keep competing. Just remember I warned you.
He wandered down the corridor, and I went back to training, now a little nervous who I would have to face. On the morning of day 4, all the finalists gathered in the arena. I stood between 2 guard captains. What did I get myself into? The first fight was between me and the village's sharpshooter. He gave me a good punch and then quickly teleported away to one of the torch towers, where he shot at me from afar far. I tried my best to dodge his shots until I was close enough to teleport below the tower and quickly teleport up behind him. In his confusion, I pushed him off the tower. He was okay, but unable to fight anymore. Then I had to fight the biggest piglin in the village. He wasted no time in smashing me with his giant mace. I returned with a few quick cuts, but he got my health down really low and hit me into the room below the arena. That was my chance to go out of a different entrance and surprise him. I kept doing this, attacking from all different sides, until he finally toppled over. He was big and strong, but too slow. The tournament finally seemed to be over as the general came down from the queen's gazebo. That relief turned into shock as I realized my final opponent was my big brother. He ran at me with his axe, catching me off guard.
You should have quit when you had the chance.
He chased me around even when I teleported away. It's no wonder why he's the queen's general. He was relentless and I could not escape. He eventually knocked me back to the edge of the giant mushroom we were on.
Yield. Now!
No. I quickly teleported behind him, mining at the magic lantern, holding up the torch tower, and it toppled over on him. Being both exhausted, we began to laugh as the queen approached. I helped the general get out from under the fallen torch, and all three of us went to the center of the arena. That's where I was declared the victor and the Ender Witch's champion. The next day, we met the queen at her island where she gave me a book with all the research she had on the Ender stones I was supposed to collect. They eerily seemed to resemble eyes. As she threw me a lantern to keep my new pet in, she said she'd make me any shape-shifting potions I need on this quest. Then the general led me to the other side of the island where it's easiest to leave and asked what the first stone was. The Void Stone. Its power is unknown, but we know it's located in the Shadow Forest and is heavily guarded. The Shadow Forest is like a festering disease that slowly takes over other biomes and drains it of life. A good place for the Void Stone, but there are a lot of Shadow Forests around here. The general tossed me some food and wished me luck. This was my very first time ever leaving the island. I took out my sword and teleported across. I guess my journey has officially begun, and luckily the first Shadow Forest seemed abandoned. Day 6, I continued to search for more Shadow Forests, and the second one I found was inhabited, so I put my dragonfly away. I was greeted by shrieks from above as winged creatures began to attack me. I quickly ran further into the forest to hide, but ran into some Shadow Walkers. They hit me and everything went dark, so I tried to swat them away and ran for my life. I returned home on day 7 and went to the blacksmith for supplies. I needed a ranged weapon to fight both creatures I encountered. I had to give him some of my food, but then he gave me a crossbow and arrows. Now properly armed, I headed back to the Shadow Forest. On the way, I found a group of wandering shulkers in this beautiful oasis. They're known for being mischievous, so I tried to sneak around them by teleporting. Day 8, I arrived at the forest, and this time tried to be more stealthy. That is, until I walked through some flowers that blinded me. I freaked out, causing some shadow walkers to notice me, but this time I was ready. I shot at them with my crossbow, teleporting away to reload. Once the last of them were vanquished, I went over to the chest they were guarding, and inside I found what looked to be the first stone for the Ender Witch. I quickly put it away and ran to leave as more of those flying creatures attacked me. I made it back the next day and tried placing the Void Stone on the portal pedestal, but nothing happened. I thought it was because I needed to fix the portal first, but suddenly a very large shulker jumped down from atop the mushroom trees and took the stone. I tried to get it back, but before I could, he ate it?
Tastes good.
What did you do?
Very nice.
Wait, berry?
Thanks. Food.
I wasn't feeding you.
Bye.
My fellow Ender Piglins just watched as he ran off. We've never seen a shulker that big before. I had to take a good look of the picture of the Void Stone again as I headed back to my house to sleep. On day 10, the big captain I fought found me and said the Ender Witch wanted me to investigate why some Ender Dragons were spotted close to her home island. Then he gave me the first of her shape-shifting potions, saying to hide and use it to escape any problem. I traveled in a new direction, parkouring through the treetops of a bright forest that had lantern seedlings floating above it as I searched for dragons. With one misplaced step, I fell to the ground and encountered what looked like an infected Enderman. It rushed to attack me, and I tried my best to hold it off. Just when I thought I was going to die, it crumpled over defeated. So I made my way back to the treetops and continued on. I definitely will need better armor if I have to face dragons. Day 11, I arrived to a red mushroom forest with gigantic pillars of obsidian jutting out across the landscape, and some dragons perched atop them. An Enderman seemed to be studying one of the pillars, and as I snuck over to him, I was surprised to see his eyes had a red tint to them.
I've never seen a piglin travel this far from home before.
Hello. Dragons came near our island, so I'm here investigating why.
A pair of these poor creatures have lost their baby. It typically happens when they begin to fly.
Poor creatures? You mean the Ender Dragons?
Yes, if that's what you call them. And now here you are, trespassing on their graveyard.
Wait, graveyard?
Every obsidian tower you see is a tombstone for a fallen dragon.
That's surprising. They're normally such vicious creatures.
They're simply protective of their own, and it looks like now would be a good time to leave.
Suddenly, a roar blasted out from the sky above as a dragon approached approached us. I turned to ask what to do, but the Enderman was gone. I ran to hide, quickly drank the witch's potion, and shrunk down. It turned me into a slime, but the dragon flew right past me and began just flying about, apparently to find its baby. So I hopped away before I turned back into a piglin. Before heading home, I was determined to find the void stone. I searched for more shadow forests, and this one seemed very well protected. These weird looking Endermen shot at anything that got too close. I tried taking them by surprise, but that didn't work, so I got back and shot at them, which was a waste of an arrow. Then I got the idea to dig a tunnel underneath them and popped out in the forest. I found my arrow, but it seemed to change flying through that ender mist. When I picked it up, the change spread to all my arrows. Then shadow walkers attacked, giving me the chance to test out my new arrows. They shattered like potions, dealing damage to multiple foes. Once I defeated the last of them, I found the real void stone floating at an altar. I traveled on home throughout day 15, stopping briefly to hide from an ender dragon that flew overhead. On day 16, I returned to the ender witch with the void stone in hand. She excitedly rushed me over to the portal area and told me to place it on the pedestal. When I did, the pedestal began to glow and the stone transformed into a bunch of particles. It also shot a powerful beam of light up into the sky. Since now we know the portal can still work, my next task was fixing it up. I spent almost 2 days collecting some magically reinforced endstone to craft the special portal blocks. I also found a little blue creature that did not like to be pet. Day 18, I brought the reinforced endstone to the blacksmith to work on making the last of the portal blocks we need. Then I got to work at restoring the portal area to its former glory. By the end of the day, the blacksmith arrived with the portal blocks and the portal was restored. The next day, the queen wanted to celebrate, so some of the other piglins invited me to go collect some endfish for the celebration. While ender piglins do hate water, we love the taste of these fluorescent fish. Day 20, we had a nice cookout to celebrate the retrieval of the first stone. I still had a long journey ahead of me, but all the excitement about going back to our ancestors' universe and having a bunch of tasty fish gave me the resolve to see this mission through. That evening, the Ender Witch told me the trials that lay ahead will be fierce, and to report to the blacksmith in the morning to upgrade my gear. The following day, the blacksmith showed me schematics for a suit of armor made out of pink crystals. I went off to find some. Pink's not exactly my color, but the crystals can emit a regeneration effect in dire circumstances. They were actually pretty hard to find though, and took a long time to mine with a gold pickaxe. Once I had just 5 end crystal fragments, I returned to the blacksmith near the end of day 22, and he made for me a new sword and pickaxe. I spent the next few days searching for more end crystals, at first not having much luck, but then that red-eyed enderman showed up again and led me to a cave that was filled with the crystals I needed. And by the end of day 25, I had full crystal armor. Not really my style, but it's at least a step up from gold armor. As I left the blacksmith, the Ender Witch found me and told me she knew of nearby catacombs to explore. When it became clear I had no idea what she was talking about, she told me to read the next page of her book, The Life Stone. The Enderman bestowed it on a creature known as the Endersint, granting it the ability to create new life, and to find the Endersint, I first need to find some catacombs. So off I went. If the Life Stone is better protected than the Void Stone, then I'm really glad to have better armor now. Day 26, I found the Enderman's catacombs the Ender Witch directed me toward, and it felt more like an abandoned lab with captured creatures. But this maze of tunnels definitely served as catacombs. The real question was, for whom? As I searched for the Enderman's archives, I ran into some not-so-captured creatures that bit at my legs and began to overwhelm me. They chased me through the maze and backed me up into a corner where I teleported to a ledge, and now they couldn't reach me. I used my crossbow to clear them out. Once I was able to look around, I realized I accidentally found a library. After looking through several old books for a while, I finally found one that mentioned the Endersint. The next day, the book I found led me to a charming purple forest, and I quickly located the Endersint. It looked a whole lot bigger in person, and he was surrounded with Enderman variants covered with eyes. I quickly teleported up to the Endersint with a surprise attack before being quickly overrun by his minions. I quickly teleported up to a tree while everything tried to attack me. The Endersint pushed through the horde of mutant Endermen it seemed to be making with the Lifestone, but whenever it got close, I swung my sword at it. Eventually, the Endersint fell, dropping the Lifestone into the swarm of angry mutants below. So I jumped into the swarm, grabbed the stone, and teleported away. Then I had to fake my death to stop them from chasing me. As I traveled back home with the Lifestone in hand, I stumbled upon another broken down portal similar to the one from my village, but while examining it, I was startled.
You defeated the Endersint.
Oh, it's just you. I've been encountering all types of Ender things recently. Most are not friendly.
Is that your first stone?
Second, actually. What do you know about them?
Long ago, the Endermen learned to travel between all 3 dimensions. After exploring them all, we searched for new places to explore. They used the stones to power these portals they built and traveled to new universes.
Why are all the stones scattered now?
Well, they came to realize how dangerous their little experiments actually were. To prevent wars between universes, those that survived closed the portals and hid away the stones.
So that's how my tribe got here? It was just a science experiment?
And how all these Enderman variants came here too. But now it seems the witches boys are the most interested in multiversal travel.
So why aren't you trying to stop me then?
Let's just say the other Endermen and I don't see eye to eye. Good luck.
And just like that, he teleported away. So I continued on home, curious why the Ender Witch wanted to leave her universe. Day 29, I met the queen at the portal and placed the second stone on the pedestal. Once it was activated, I asked her why she wanted to go to my ancestors' universe. She said it was for our sake and that everything would make sense eventually. Before I could ask another question, she said to take off my armor and threw a potion at me. The general smiled as I transformed into an Ender Piglin brute. Then she walked away, so the general and I left to go gather some food. We spent that evening chatting at the old bastion.
Much more imposing now, aren't we?
I do feel a lot stronger now.
Maybe one day you'll be as strong as me.
Didn't I beat you in the arena?
I went easy on you, that's all.
Okay, sure.
I need to borrow you for a bit of a mission.
How can I help?
A group of pesky shulkers have been eating our crops. We need to deal with these pests before we run out of food. We can meet at the farms in the morning.
Sounds like a plan. Before leaving, we reminisced about the stories of large lava lakes and the mighty fortresses of Blackstone we were told about as kids. We were so excited to one day see it with our own eyes. Early the next morning, we cleared the farms of any shulkers and pursued them to try to find their nest. At least until we found that big shulker that ate my berry. The general thanked me with an enchanted firebolt thrower that would make my arrows even more explosive. I also got more arrows, but they changed into void tip arrows when I put them with the others. Day 31, I traveled to a nearby amber forest because I needed an amber gem to power my new crossbow. These trees drip amber that falls onto the ground and hardens, so all I have to do is mine 4 pieces and craft them together. Then I had to test it out. This explosive power will definitely be handy against swarms. After getting a good night's rest, I checked what the next stone was. The Frost Stone, which could be found amongst the stars, which are actually asteroids, and what are chorus squid? This one was too confusing, so I decided to collect some more blossom berries. I asked the farmer there if he ever heard of chorus squid, and he said a friend once saw a giant chorus squid in an end river while out gathering resources. We went to his friend's house and got the directions to the end river, and he lent me a boat I could use. I spent the next few days searching for the Frost Stone and used the boat to sail toward where the giant chorus squid was last seen. The water here wasn't filled with life like the ponds back home. Everything felt cold, and only chorus plants bloomed. Some of the chorus plants looked a bit different too, so I got out to try some. As I hit one, the plant came alive and opened its eyes. It swam toward me and bared its teeth. I couldn't wriggle out of its grasp as it tried to eat me, so I punched it as hard as I could and pulled out my sword. I swung at it to keep it away and it fell. I got back in the boat and sailed down to an island where the giant chorus squid awaited anything dumb enough to go near it. The island was covered in ice, and it looked like the chorus squid left a trail of ice leading away from its island. Day 35, I arrived to a place where spiky frozen asteroids filled the void. So this is what the queen meant by amongst the stars. I tried my best to teleport between the stars, trying my best not to fall off, while also avoiding waking up any of the chorus squid that populated these frigid death traps. Eventually, I found an enormous star, and on a hunch began mining into it. I dug into a room filled with those blue bitey creatures surrounding the frost stone. I'm glad I didn't dig straight down. I used my crossbow to deal tons of damage until the room was cleared. Then I teleported down and retrieved the frost stone. Now I just had to make it home. At the start of day 36, I made it back to the end river, and as I approached the water, it turned to ice. The frost stone seemed to enchant my boots, freezing the water below my feet. While this was cool, it meant I couldn't take the boat home, and my journey would be that much slower. I spent the next 2 days traveling on home, but I did want to see what other powers this frost stone held. It made me unlimited snowballs to hurl at some unlucky wandering shulkers, and it could also make blocks of ice, which landed a crushing blow. As the end of day 38 drew near, I returned home and reluctantly placed the frost stone on its pedestal, activating it for the ender portal. It was a little hard giving up that power. Day 39, the ender witch was working on a few different experiments and had a dangerous mission for me and the general, tossing us a couple potions and sending us on our way. We spent a while traveling through different biomes while the general told me we are tasked with stealing an ender dragon egg. Once we arrived to the edge of a dragon graveyard, we saw a dragon flying by, so we quickly drank the potions and turned into endermites. This drew the unwanted attention of an enderman who chased us into a cave, but retreated from the entrance. The cave was filled with dragon eggs, 2 sleeping dragons, and a baby dragon. I guess the one that was missing. The general quietly took one of the eggs and tossed it to me, and as we left, the potions wore off, so we ran for our lives as the patrolling dragon chased us. Once we made it out of its territory, the dragon stopped its pursuit, and we were able to safely deliver the egg to the Ender Witch for whatever she was working on. The only thing was, she was nowhere to be found when we returned on day 43. We went to ask the sharpshooting piglin captain if he saw anything from above the village. He said the queen went off with some guards and a cart filled with some sort of stone. We didn't have to travel too far before we found a broken down empty cart and 2 incapacitated guards. We also found the queen up in a tree with a huge golem sleeping below. The general teleported up to her and helped her get down, but then the golem reactivated. I charged it and told the general to get the queen to safety. He smashed me up in the air, so I teleported away and blasted him with my crossbow. It didn't seem to phase him. The queen must have healed the other guards because soon they were by my side fighting the golem. With another angry smash, he knocked my health down, nearly killing me. I quickly ate while the guards held him back. Then he summoned giant crystal spikes that killed one of the guards. I guess they weren't healed too much because he quickly defeated both of them. It was just him and me. I kept my distance, firing my crossbow at him, and eventually one of my arrows must have hit just the right place because he fell to his knees defeated, dropping a mysterious item. As I got closer, a pool of liquid seeped up from the ground and looked like the void. I grabbed the item and ran for my life. I sensed dark magic. It felt like a part of the golem escaped somehow. I reported back to the Ender Witch on day 44. She said she was trying to build a golem to serve her, but underestimated the dark magic she used. She told me the void core in my hand is what summoned the crystals. To both thank me and keep me quiet, she rewarded me with a bigger house that I think used to belong to those two guards. So I moved my things to my new place and spent the last part of the day testing out the void core on some shulkers that were getting too close to our island. Day 45, while I was collecting more food, the blacksmith excitedly approached me, pitching me an idea for getting stronger crystal armor while also replenishing my food supply. His directions led me to a beautiful purple field filled with crystal geodes and wild stalkers like the ones we have at home. I got to work at collecting the different colored crystals, but they seemed really easy to break. Fortunately, the blacksmith said they are stronger once combined, and the queen would help with a bit of magic too. Once I had enough crystals, I began hunting some of the stalkers until I was confronted by a giant one.
You dare attack my younglings?
Sorry, I thought these were just wild animals.
We do roam these lands freely. However, you are trespassing.
I'll leave right away.
It's too late for that. Now let's see how you like being hunted.
She began chasing me, so I ran through the nearest archway, turned around, and shot an arrow at it, causing it to come crashing down. When the dust cleared, I went around the rubble and found the creature crushed. So I went back to collecting more meat, now feeling a little bad about it, but I was quickly distracted by the new magical item I got. The next day, I gave the blacksmith the crystals I collected, and while I waited for him to craft the new armor, I cooked up all the meat I had gathered. With my food cooking, I checked to see what the fourth stone was. The redstone. It can generate power for all sorts of machines and can be found in an end city. But which end city? After my food was all cooked, I got my new armor and headed over to the queen's hut. She said she knew the purple golems had the redstone, but didn't know which city they would be keeping it at. She did, however, give me the schematics for a build that would show us the way. So I spent the next several days collecting resources for a build atop the giant ice star where I found the frost stone. The queen said though frozen over, the ice stars are actual stars and still contain energy. We would need to build a base on top of one of them to harness that energy and use it to locate the redstone. While traveling to the giant ice star, I came across a crashed end ship. The only thing that survived the crash was a cool looking hammer, but as I got closer to it, I stepped on a trap that shot up a spike and dealt a ton of damage. I tried to shake it off and darted for the hammer, then teleported out to avoid any more traps. No wonder no one had grabbed this yet. As I traveled through the dust wastelands, I used some more shulkers to test out my hammer, or should I say gravity hammer. Each swing launched my targets into the air and soon they came crashing back down. It was nice giving the shulkers a taste of their own medicine for once. On day 53, I made it to the giant ice star, and the first thing I needed to do was clear off all the chorus squid. Then I spent the next several days building an outpost with several antennas and one main tower. I added a place for piglins to work if they ever needed to come out here, and I also connected the towers to the energy field areas of the star. The Ender Witch arrived on the last day of building and activated the outpost, releasing a surge of energy. With it, we were able to pinpoint any other major energy source nearby, and one definitely stood out. So I spent day 57 traveling to the coordinates in hopes to find the end city and the redstone. Day 58, I arrived at the coordinates, finding a bunch of those purple golems protecting a magnificent end city. I charged in using all the weapons I had at my disposal. The golems hit hard, but my new armor remained sturdy throughout the battle. Soon the last golem fell to my blade, and I went to search the final room. The redstone hovered in place, powering all sorts of mechanisms. I carefully removed it and made my way out. It took me almost 2 full days to bring the redstone back to the portal. Now I only had 2 stones left to collect. Day 61, the power of multiple stones in one place seemed to draw in some unwelcome guests. I had to defend the village from a horde of those yellow infected ender creatures. I also chased off a group of shulkers who were trying to steal our food again. I figured I'd collect some shells from them for the blacksmith while I was at it. That is, until I was stopped.
Why you scare brothers? They share fun.
They steal, cause piglins lots of problems.
Problem? No. Food good.
Never mind.
Never mind problem.
No, that's not what He scuttled away before I could explain. I really don't understand that one. At the end of day 61, I gave the blacksmith the shulker shells I collected so he could make some more armor for the guards. But the next morning, the blacksmith sought me out and said his friend was supposed to deliver him some supplies, but hadn't arrived yet. With the dragon sightings and the recent attacks, he was starting to worry. He gave me a map to where he sent his friend and sent me on my way. The blacksmith was trying to get a new type of crystal to infuse with his weapons to make them even stronger. But now that Piglin could be in danger. On day 64, I arrived to the Crystal Mountain. mountains. The crystals were huge and illuminated the entire area. It was absolutely beautiful, but the piglin was nowhere to be seen. I continued to explore and found a mushroom forest similar to where I'm from, except the only life there were those purple golems, and they seemed to be on guard, as if expecting something. While I was spying on them, something attacked me from behind. I spun around to find one of the golems. I hit him with my hammer, and with my cover blown, ran into battle. The golems had a grudge against me, but I slew the few that wandered the forest. Then the missing piglin emerged from the tower and said it was a trap before being pulled back in. Several golems emerged from hiding and charged at me. I teleported up to the piglin and defeated those guarding him, and we both snuck away while the golems searched for us. On the way home, the piglin told me the golems were using him as bait in an attempt to draw me out so they could get the redstone I took from them. While traveling, we ran into more of those blastling things and had a hard time fighting them off, so we ran. Hopefully the universe we were trying to get to is a little less hostile than this one. When we made it back, the piglin gave the blacksmith the crystals and he swiftly combined them to his newest gear. He had made for me a new sword, shield, and crossbow out of those crystals and something similar to netherite that our ancestors used to use. It was a welcomed upgrade. I finally got a shield. On day 67, it was time to search for the 5th stone, the nether stone. It can create and control fire and usually symbolizes royalty, but it's missing. To help with the search for this stone, the Ender Witch tested a new potion on the general and me. At first, nothing happened, but then we transformed into dragonflies. It was so fun being able to fly around freely. She told us not to fly too high, so we raced around the village and avoided flying over the void as well. The potions didn't last too long, and soon we were walking back to the queen's hut. The witch said she would try to make the potions last longer and that this was a stepping stone to something bigger, but first needed to figure out a list of ingredients for us to collect. So I spent that night testing out my new shield on those blastlings from the day before. Day 68, the Ender Witch had compiled the list of supplies she needed. She gave the list to the general to collect, and off we went. Then the witch brought me to some empty stables. To stabilize her potions, she would need 4 types of slime. That was my job to collect, but she needed them alive, giving me a special staff that could turn the slime into eggs. I found your average blue slime and excitedly tested out the staff. Then I restocked my food supply before I left to find the others. I spent the next several days searching for and collecting the other slime species. Day 73, all the slime were finally in their stables, and the queen was going to carve off some samples. So I went to ask around about the nether stone. To my surprise, the trader I saved from the golems overheard the golems talking about a stone in the sulfur springs, which are natural hot springs. I quickly flipped through my book to the nether stone, probably hidden somewhere hot. It would be hard to detect the heat from the nether stone if it's surrounded by hot water. How was I going to get something in the water when it burns me? I went back to my house to sleep feeling a bit defeated, but the following day I brought up my concerns to the Ender Witch as she was making new potions. She gave me an extra potion that she had that could turn me into a jellyfish. Once her potions were done, we went outside and she splashed me with a different one, transforming me into a dragonfly again. She pointed me in the direction of the sulfur springs and off I went, a bit nervous, flying over the void for the first time. Day 75, while flying over a new biome, the dragonfly potion wore off, causing me to plummet out of the sky. Luckily, this jungle type biome had slimy leaves that broke my fall. They actually were really fun to bounce on. I bounced my way down to the ground and saw the air was filled with cute tiny little jellyfish. It made me really excited to try out the jellyfish potion, and as I made it out of the jungle, I ran into that red-eyed Enderman again.
Hello again.
What are you doing out here?
Tracking the corrupted soul you released upon this dimension.
I did no such thing.
The Ender Witch used dark magic to bring her golem to life. When you defeated it, the captured soul within was released.
I did get a shiver up my spine after defeating that giant golem. Tell me, what does it look like now?
It has achieved its perfect form. It's as dark as the void itself.
And where is it now?
Not far. I saw it last entering the blossoming spires nearby. Good luck.
He then teleported away, and I was a bit concerned now about whatever he was following. I made it to the blossoming spires the next day. Pink moths flew about harmlessly. Their pink silk can make really soft beds. It was such a peaceful place until I found the perfect form. I ran in with my sword and hit it, but the void puddle that I saw before dealt a ton of damage, so I got back and shot my crossbow at it. My arrows made it angry, spawning in floating lights and endermites. The lights looked so pretty, but quickly exploded. I teleported up to one of the spires and ate to heal up. Then I used my crossbow to shoot from afar. I tried my best to stay away from any explosives while shooting arrow after arrow. It took some time and a lot of arrows, but once its health was low enough, I ran in, and with a final swing of my sword, I popped its head clean off. Now I can ask the queen about this. The sulfur springs weren't actually too much farther from the spires. I approached one of the pools, drank the jellyfish potion, and jumped in. As I hit the water, I turned into a jellyfish. I luckily didn't burn, but I didn't really enjoy swimming around. I carefully went deeper into the springs. If anything attacked me, I'd be a goner. I found other jellyfish that blended more to their environment. They were in the deepest part of the spring where a bunch of natural vents were, and amongst them was the nether stone. stone. Once I grabbed it, it started feeling like the potion was beginning to wear off. I needed air. I swam over to the vents to hopefully get some from the bubbles when a powerful current shot me up the springs and out the top. I turned back into a piglin right before drowning and took a moment to catch my breath. I spent the next few days traveling all the way back home on foot since I didn't have another dragonfly potion. When I made it home, I placed the nether stone on its pedestal and watched it transform. Only one stone to go. After that, I went to confront the queen about the perfect form. She said she was just trying to prepare for whatever lies on the other side of the portal that we were so close to opening. The following day, she invited me to watch some sparring in the arena to get my mind off things and rest a bit. I'll admit, these gladiator battles are much more fun when you can watch safely from the audience. For the next 2 days, different creatures began arriving to our island. I guess the 5 beacons lighting up the sky did show off the power we held. I fought alongside my piglin brethren as we protected the portal from those who wanted the stones. On day 84, the blacksmith needed more gold to fix up our guards' weapons, so I spent this day collecting some. When I gave the blacksmith his gold, he said he finally designed the perfect armor for the queen's champion, giving me a list of different ingredients to collect. I traveled across the island searching far and wide, collecting everything on the list. While I was out, I ran into the red-eyed Enderman again. He seemed to be almost following me at this point. We seem to be running into each other a lot recently.
I'm just trying to help you a bit with reopening the portal.
So you want the portal opened even though the other Endermen don't?
The other Endermen think they should be in charge of all traveling through the multiverse. I am not from this universe, and I would just like to get home, that is all.
Okay, well, thanks.
Only one stone to go.
Once I got everything I needed, I headed home. Day 89 and 90, we had to fight off swarms of shulkers who seemed to be very determined to get the stones now. But everyone froze when that big shulker approached.
Stop! Give stones!
Why do you want them?
Master says so. Wants worlds collide.
Who's your master?
Not your business. Need other stones.
Wait, other stones? He has the last one?
Said too much. Retreat to fortress.
With that, the shulkers all ran off, so we chased them for a bit before deciding to regroup at the blacksmith. He had my champion's armor waiting for me. I excitedly put it on and it fit perfectly. Then the blacksmith said I just need to retrieve a sword fit for a champion. He heard of one that was forged long ago by the Enderman. Before going on another quest, I decided to collect some food first. Then I needed somewhere to think, so I headed over to the old bastion to cook what I had gathered. I flipped through the book from the queen to the last stone, the magic stone. It enhances the user's powers and enchantments, but was stolen long ago. I guess by the shulkers? Wait, there's one more page. Like and subscribe? Odd symbols, but it seems like sage advice. And while I was reading, the general snuck up on me.
Am I interrupting something?
Oh no, I found out the last stone is in the shulker stronghold.
That's great! What's the catch?
I just don't know the location of their stronghold.
Ah, well, did you forget? I am a general. I can send out scouts to seek it out.
The last stone is the magic stone. It makes its wielder very powerful. I don't want to see any piglins get hurt.
The queen wants this portal opened as soon as possible and at any cost. She said she doesn't have the same powers as the other witches who can open the portals on their own.
Other witches? Is that why she wants to go to the universe of our ancestors?
I still don't fully understand her intentions, but she thinks opening the portal is the only way to protect us. I still don't know what from. I'm just excited to see where we originated from.
I'll be leaving tomorrow to find a sword to use against whoever leads the shulkers. Send out the scouts, but tell them not to engage if they find anything. With that, he nodded and we went back to the village. I spent the next few days tracking down more of the Enderman's catacombs. I had to fight my way through new creatures that seemed to resemble Endermen. It was almost like they were created as guardians for this place. After searching through this labyrinth, I found a room mostly encased in glass that was well protected. I teleported into the room and the guards couldn't get me. That's why I found the rumored sword. I grabbed it and teleported into harm's way to test my new weapon. It was definitely powerful. Then I just decided to dig my way up and out of the catacombs, then began my trek home. On my way home, I found the red-eyed Enderman again looking up at something glowing in the sky. As I got closer, a red-eyed Ender Piglin teleported in front of me and began attacking me. He had shiny blue armor and a giant sword similar to mine. We seemed pretty evenly matched, but I made sure to use all my gear to fight him. I made him float in the air and hit him with an arrow. He got too close too many times. He couldn't stop shaking and his skin seemed so pale. His relentless attacks got my health down really low. As he ran at me a final time, I used the void core to push him away. That knocked him on his back and his eyes turned purple and color returned to his skin. He whispered thank you as he perished, dropping his sword. When I looked up, the red-eyed Enderman had vanished, so I continued on home, wondering if he was somehow involved with that attack and maybe even conspiring with the Shulker's leader. Toward the end of day 96, I made it back home and found the queen testing out a growth potion on some of our stalkers. It reminded me too much of the mother stalker I had encountered a while ago. She tossed me a growth potion and told me to use it on my pet after I get the last stone. Then I went back home a little confused and got some well-needed sleep. The next morning, a scout returned home with good news. He had found the large shulker somewhere nearby. I followed him to the shulker's camp, but they weren't there anymore. Luckily, we found them not too far off, so I sent the scout back home and stealthily pursued the shulkers. After a long hike, we finally arrived to the shulker's ruined citadel. It didn't look that big, but it goes deep underground. I tried to sneak inside, but stepped on another one of those trap blocks with hidden spikes. This alerted a couple shulkers of my presence, but I managed to stop them from raising alarm. I worked my way down to the lowest part of the citadel, but all I found was a box. Thinking maybe the stone was inside, I crept closer until the box sprang open and the Shulker's leader revealed himself. I sprung to action, but he hit me with a powerful punch. I backed away and tried to use the void core, but he used a powerful core to summon a lot of spikes. He pursued and wouldn't let me get far away. Whenever I did, I felt a force drawing me toward him. His punches were so powerful. I tried my best to teleport away and hide just long enough to heal up. Then I shot my crossbow at him. He kept up with those same attacks, which made them slightly easier to dodge, but he still had a lot of stamina and health. When I got his health down about halfway, his large helmet broke. In a furious rage, he smashed the ground, causing us to fall into a lower chamber. He was mad his true identity was revealed. He was just another shulker, and I couldn't help but laugh at his tiny head. He fought more aggressively now, and I felt like any one strong hit could kill me. I constantly teleported around the room, hitting him with all sorts of attacks, until he let out a final roar, waving his hands in the air before toppling over onto his stomach. He tried to get up, but couldn't. He was finally defeated. He dropped a gauntlet upon his death, so I picked it up and put it on. It was a little big on me, but I felt a strong magic within it that I was excited to test out. Then I remembered why I had come. The magic stone. I swiftly looked around the room until I found a hidden altar that held the final stone. I grabbed it and snuck back out of the citadel. As day 99 began, I made sure I was a safe distance from the citadel before letting out and throwing a potion at my pet dragonfly. It grew to a massive size, and that's when I realized the Ender Witch gave me a ride home. While flying back, I had to stop and test the gauntlet on some shulkers. I felt like a gravity well pulling them toward me and right off a cliff. On day 100, I made it back to my village, finding the queen and general waiting for me at the portal. I put the last stone on the last pedestal, and the portal sparked to life. It was such a beautiful sight and big accomplishment. Then the queen said to take off our armor before we go through, because she had a special potion to test on us once we get to the other side. When we were ready, all three of us walked through the portal. To our surprise, we came out in another end dimension at an end city, not in the nether that our ancestors were from. It seemed much more empty, except for the Endermen approaching us, accompanied by a floating fiery creature.
Hello, strangers. I've not seen one of these pop up in a long time. Why are you here?
Wait, how did you get here? And what happened to your eyes?
I don't know what you are talking about. Seeing that you have come from a different universe, you may have met a variant version of myself. Why are you here?
We're from here. Well, our ancestors are from this universe's nether.
I do recall hearing about that experiment from my leader. We Endermen try our best to keep peace throughout the multiverse, and we've recently become very weary of witches.
Please, we just want to see where we are originally from.
Okay, fine. Piglins cannot normally survive out of the nether for long here anyway. I will teleport you all to the nether now. Just please stay out of trouble.
Within an instant, we were brought to the nether. The Enderman said the coordinates put into our portal was correct, it just brought us to the wrong dimension. Once he teleported away, we noticed two other types of odd-looking piglins fighting each other. The Ender Witch seemed to be prepared for this, and that's how I survived 100 days as an Ender Piglin in hardcore Minecraft. I want to give a special thanks to Mudflaps, A Cookie God, Lagundo, and Lindsay Ray for helping me make this video, to LukeTheNotable for starting the 100 days trend, to my patrons for your continued support, and to you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please support the channel by liking and subscribing. Thanks again for watching.